Okay, welcome all. Travesty, thank you very much for the luck. I appreciate it. Unicus, good evening. How's it going? Wings, boneless with fries, really healthy. I just just grilled up some burgers, some turkey burgers and regular burgers. We spent most of the evening in the pool, so I grilled some food up. Just finished eating. Decided I'd come and try and stream to keep me honest on this stuff. Default integration event. So do it that way. Let's paste it in there. Refactor, adjust. My integration event. Not a difficult one. Why is that not set to sort token file? There we go. So I'm just going to paste these in to make this function. Wow, I am down quite the rabbit hole there, aren't I? I event. That's a mediator thing. No, that's my Kafka abstractions. Awesome. So that is interesting. So there. Okay, so what I am trying to do is I am trying to test Kafka and Akka, kind of joining the two together. For those that weren't in stream the other day, I'll figure out our computers work in a second. So this is where we are with the application, right? We've got attachments working, we've got requirements working. So all this stuff is now starting to come together. But I want to get to the notifications side of things. So we get to this. Oh no, that's not the version. That's not the good version. We need the good version. We need layout messaging flow. There you go. There's our layout. So the way this is going to work, right now we have the view consuming the Kafka events that are the integration events. And what I want to do is build the changes component out. So this would be responsible for figuring out what events should be published further forward. And I'm going to lean into Kafka still at this point. Notifications might be a service bus message out to the rest of the system as an event that happened. But right now I'm going to lean into Kafka still. So the streamer changes will come through, broken out as figuring out what actually changed. So we're going to kind of work on this part with Akka. And the reason I'm choosing Akka, as we kind of went into in the previous stream, is it allows me to parallelize this functionality. So when I get an entity, I can guarantee I'm going to process the entity and work with the entity. So it gives me that I can work on that and other messages can come in and I can process them, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do something like this. We're going to get the receiver. We're going to build the receivers up for Kafka. So we're going to configure that in a second. And then we're going to create actors that kind of describe the workflow. So determining, like I said here, right? We're going to ask, do we know about this entity? If we do, then we need to tell it. We need to go to the actor that figures out the changes. If we don't, then we go to a different actor that's going to be responsible for publishing out to Kafka that a new entity was created. So it's not up to us in the benefit of this is it's not up to me in the application stack to care about that those events, right? All I care about is this data is needing to be produced to the wider system. So when I get to planning, when I actually touch a planning item, right? When I subscribe to the notification, I don't care. I don't need to figure out, oh, have people seen this before? The changes system will be responsible for saying, hey, by the way, this was created. Um, I mean, if anyone joins the system afterwards, everything's an update anyway, so they'll have to deal with updates. Um, but they'd be built with those entities in place anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prototype out the ACF pieces, see which pieces I need to configure, see if there's anything else I need to tidy up to put into the main application, and then build out the changes as an ACA system. And I'm going to use the hosted version of it because then I can actually scale this out and scale this up. If I'm looking over there, it's because I don't have the prompter on the camera. I have the chat up to my right hand side. So I apologize if I'm just turning my head all the time uh to 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 talk because you're over there for me. So what I was doing earlier on was adding my Kafka library in here to try and get the Kafka configuration working, which will then allow me to get these events being received and processed. So what I'm going to do is kind of learn a bit more about Akka as I go here, whether I need to create DTOs or whatever. So I'm open to ideas. I'm open to suggestions. But overall, the goal is to kind of flow this through, right? Is to hey Frank, how you doing? How is your Saturday evening going? So basically we get the same event and now it's going to process it here. Later on, we're going to have the monitoring process, but I only need to figure this out once. I need to figure out can the ACA components work. Monitoring will be a completely separate concept. I recently bought a new monitor, gaming monitor, 4K and all that. They didn't have it in Best Buy, so I had to wait for it. Ooh, I hate that when you have to wait for technology. When you want a new toy, there's nothing worse than that wait. Doing well, happy to get you. Happy for you to be here. It's a later evening Saturday stream because this will keep me focused and save me from watching Twitch and YouTube. When I picked it up, I got convinced by a sign to get me a Meta Quest 3 when I picked it up. The Quest 3 doesn't look too bad. I like the sign was very convincing. Do you watch David Does Tech Stuff on YouTube? Um he's he's a funny tech YouTuber. Um um he's he's hilarious and he just did a Quest video today. Um he's the actually only tech YouTuber I follow anymore. I've stopped following most of the others. Actively following him anyway. So okay. So what we need to do is let's refactor this, adjust namespaces, get all these events in place so everything works correctly. We can get rid of this now because now we've got our integration event. And we'll make this the this is hard because now this is a full message. So let's just make a sample message in here. And that's going to be a record. And that's going to be, let's make it sample message. Yeah, so sample message, period identifier, string name, and date time. They added. There you go. That'll stop that complaining at least. Now the actors, let's create a folder for them so we can see them at a glance. That'll help. We want to call this wants to be the sample message actor. And that's going to be sample message Right, just so we can prove that out still in the single one. Morning, joke, evening. Hi Mojo, how you doing? I hadn't tried VR before. The closest to the 3D chat app back in '96 in school. It's an interesting first experience. My first experience with VR was playing Quake in '97 on one of the early VR heads. The early like that was yeah. That's when I learned I could get quite nauseous. Um, but I tried the Quest 2 not too long ago. I've got a PSVR 2, I've got a Valve Index and a Samsung Odyssey headset and PSVR. And I've tried. My favorite game is actually Gran Turismo on the PSVR 2. It's just amazing. Okay. So yeah, as always, if anyone has any interest, any ideas as I'm going along through this, I'm open to new ideas. So basically, what my plan is to at least get to the prototyping of figuring out what changed and talking about um, those things. A fellow Gran Turismo enthusiast. I I've loved Gran Turismo since the first one on the PlayStation 1. Me and my brother spent a long. I actually went and bought a one of the first rumble pads, one of the first dual shots back when they were an add-on with analog sticks to the PlayStation. GT doesn't make you sick. No, I love that game. I've yet to try it with my wheel. I need to get my Logitech wheel back out and get that set up, but I don't have a good seating position for it. Um, but yeah, I love Gran Turismo, and yeah, I like driving fast as well in real life, so I'm not afraid of the speed of it. But the PSVR 2 is actually pretty good. Yeah. Okay, so let's go. Oh, the dog's having a moment. The challenge with trying to stream this late is the dogs decide when bedtime is. They get very grumpy if you don't go to bed. Okay, so what I need to do is so I have what I've done is I've got this Kafka library, right? So this is my wrapper around Kafka. GT is tame. Yeah, I've never done a track day. My wife got me tickets a long time ago and I let them lapse, which I've forever regretted and constantly heard about. Um, okay, so I created this Kafka component to kind of save me some time. And actually, this is one of the things that is scaring me about using um, um, Aspire because the Kafka configuration that I looked at actually looks like I'd have to embrace using Kafka through Aspire. I'd actually have to use their libraries for for setting up consumers and producers, etc. And I don't want to jump through those hoops. I built an entire library around using Kafka, and it would be very difficult to build something different, to use something different now. So what this does is when I add Kafka, I can say, hey, go and pull your configuration from console. So I can actually store my Kafka configuration for my topics, at least, inside of console. So I'd only need the configuration once. So I'm embracing having a key value store shared across the application stack. And then I pull the rest from Kafka configuration in here. Um, could your wrapper become an Aspire component? I could probably figure out how they wire consumers and producers up, I suppose, and see if it could be adapted and kind of create adapters around. Um, but yeah, because they do, from what I saw with the Aspire stuff, they kind of handle a lot of this. It's very confusing because I work with a company that has Aspire in the name. So .NET Aspire is very confusing. So their Apache Kafka component adds Kafka producers. So it registers the iProducer. So my stuff, not Liquid Sky. This is I published this as an actual set of open source extensions. So I have this is the configuration that you can have. So you can actually store the configuration locally still, but you can actually configure to use console, which I need to document. But I'm setting up the consumer, I'm setting up the publisher, and I actually configure outbox and stuff. So I'd have to figure out how all this works because add Kafka. That's my exact method, add Kafka, right? So its purpose is to be cloud ready. Everything else is fluff, to be fair. It really just depends if you want to ease the deployment and part of development. I see. I don't consider this a hard part of development. And ultimately, what I'd want to use, I'd want to use cloud Kafka anyway. I wouldn't want to use a deployed custom instance because the purpose of Kafka is its scale. If you use something like Confluent Cloud, they'll deal with that for you, right? So that load is already taken off. You pay for it, but you get that benefit, so you don't have to worry about doing that. And yeah, but anyway, that's something that I'll have to worry about. If I want to tackle Aspire, I've got to figure out how all that works because obviously, I think we were talking about Aspire really doesn't do well with fitting it into an existing application. You've got to do a lot of tinkering because again, I've got just in this application stack, right? I've got this is my Docker, right? So I have Kafka, I have SQL Server, I've got RabbitMQ, I've got Redis, I've got console running, so I've got service discovery in there. Right, so I've got all these things running already. Couchbase may or may not come back. I think Couchbase will come back. I think tickets might actually be Couchbase based in the end, because I think it might fit pretty well for tickets. And things like this thing that I'm about to work on, right? It's very likely that that'll be Mongo based. So I've got a lot of pieces, and what I'm trying to do is not limit myself to single technologies just because it might cost something, right? I'm trying to build the system the way I want it to be built to demonstrate this is what can be done. Now let's go and look and see what corners we can cut and what you know considerations we can peel back on. So I called this dispatching consumer because it will basically pull in. It might not be the greatest name for something, but the dispatching consumer actually fires them off as individuals, so it can actually do multi. It can serve multiple queues at once. If you don't do that, and you'll end up with serving only one topic at a time. So it's a challenge. Where did I put that? Configuration, extensions, outbox, extensions. Yeah, here you go. Yeah, so the dispatching Kafka consumer actually starts them as new long-running tasks. So each consumer started on its own thread. You don't want to do this for if you were building this out. This does the way I've got the libraries built. I actually do support having them. Or I will support having them be able to say, okay, well, this version of the library is going to run on this topic and this topic and this topic. So you can actually um, single process these things as well. But yeah. It also helps in dev running locally. Yeah. But I mean, the problem is I've got a great deal of investment of time in this already. And to go from what I've looked at to go back and try and even retrofit Aspire into a 51 project solution where I've got all those dependencies used will be challenging to say the least. and I don't think it'll gain me very much for what I've got running right now. So let's copy this into the anchor first steps part. So we need to, what do we need? Where's that console extension coming into? Kafka configuration console infrastructure. Do I have that as an actual receivers? So hold on, let's have a look. Kafka configuration console. Okay, so there you go. I've got a separate NuGet package for that one. It's like I'm trying to do this correctly. So again, all these are in NuGet, all these are in GitHub. So these are things that I use that I feel might help. There are other libraries around Kafka. So Confluent built Kafka libraries on top of the C++ libraries, and then the .NET libraries are sat on top of them. So there's an abstraction, and they've got an API there, but this is just helping all the configuration and stuff to clean it up. Hey bro, what is this project about? So this project is a aimed at being a project management tool, ultimately aimed at going from ticketing through planning to stories and development stuff, right? Focused on trying to get the developer to be as far away from the reporting aspects as possible. Aimed at being increasing visibility, increasing accountability for product teams, etc., so that they can track what they need without having to fret over developers. So developers can focus on what they need to work on, and other things are kept focused on. So yeah, it's Jira like, yeah. Most of my career I spent working, or most of the last 10 plus years of my career I've spent working on Jira, and all the pain points that come with that. I've played the role of tribe lead and scrum lead. I've managed teams and tried to handle the workflow through there, worked with PMs that are highly motivated and worked with PMs that are very unmotivated, and all sorts of management challenges. So one of the things this app does is focuses on this review date concept. So the review date is a mandatory field, and it will again show it will allow people to track, oh, we expect to review this by then, and it will tell people it hasn't been reviewed, it's expired. So there'll be alerting built around this piece, tracking which projects people think it's assigned to, trying to gather better requirements, providing the tools necessary to support that before even. So I'm focused right now on the planning aspect of this, and I'm about to start working on the changes aspect, telling people here's what changed. So starting to get towards notifications, either real time, email, dashboard style notifications, and making that configurable. So, but oftentimes I've been stuck in Jira with, where are we with this project? Where are we with this item? Who knows where this is, etc. So I'm trying to solve some of those problems through better reporting and visibility before I even get to all the normal reporting of burn down and all those sorts of things. So customizable customizable alerting, etc. Yeah, but most people are already comfortable with their current ways. We're using it at work, and I like it, but I do understand why people wouldn't want to add it to an already existing project. I'm not scared of adding it. I mean, I am scared of adding it to the existing projects purely because of the amount of time it would take for Aspire to get put in there. So, it would be a challenge my biggest concern is the amount of stuff I have to customize to follow Microsoft specific things. So if Kafka changes, because Kafka does change quite drastically sometimes, if they change their underlying libraries, um, how fast do Microsoft respond with their stuff, right? Um, so once you've built those dependencies in, you're kind of hooked on that. I mean, if you take a dependency on my stuff, right, it's the same thing. It requires me to maintain it, and now if people actually start picking that up, I've got to keep an eye on the way those things work. Um, but yeah, Aspire just doesn't seem like something I can just pick up and run with in its current form. When does this go beta? After One Lions Community Day, one of the devs at work came to me and asked about making Jira easy to use. Well, we got to get there, right? This is a slow process. Um, I'm hoping that I can accelerate once we get to the changes thing and the notifications start to come in. I start to get to tinker with this and actually start to dog food it myself. Um, I'm a junior dev. What do you think about .NET Future? I'm confused a bit. I should go with Spring Boot or .NET Core for better career salary? This is a stupid question. I don't know. Have any suggestion? I think it's a stupid question. I think it's a very valid concern. I think .NET has a really strong future. Microsoft are heavily invested in it. It's not going away. Um, it's, I mean, same as Java and Spring, right? They're both well-established technologies. It, it's, I mean, if you're in school learning one of them, then I'd kind of give that a go. Um, it can't hurt to compare and contrast and see where you're more comfortable. For me, um, .NET just felt good from day one. And I've been doing .NET for 20 years. Um, I've been a developer for over 25. Um, so it's I've made a career out of it, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon. .NET. If anything, it's got stronger the last couple of years because of the decisions they've made. Not all good decisions. There's some of the web technologies I think they still seem a little bit confused over. But yeah, we both received compliments during our quarter reviews, but we both felt like it was undeserved because we haven't felt productive. What you consider productive and what the business considers productive aren't always the same. I know that feeling. Um, uh, you can do so much more, right? Um, but yeah, if the business is seeing that, it's a compliment to your work ethic that it's showing through. Ads are going to start on Twitch at least in about 30 seconds. I do apologize if you get stuck behind them. Um, I had enough time to chat one line stream for 2 hours. Yeah, yeah. But you shouldn't always be busy. Especially on a Friday, you should be able to be relaxed and take it easier. Okay, so let's do this. So unfortunately, right now this library does require me to do to configure the actual receiver. So the way this is going to work, I'm going to create a folder called receivers. I'd be interested to know because it sounds like Deflux has been going through a bit of DDD stuff recently. I'd be interested to know from his perspective, what he feels like project structure should look like, what he's understood from the stuff so far. Because I still tend to align to technical concerns too often. But use cases here never feel good. So, and again, I'm the one working in the code base, so I'm the one that has to maintain it. So it is what makes sense to me right now. So this is going to be the planning item integration event receiver. Planning item receiver. So one of the beautiful things about Kafka is Wow. That's quite interesting that you think I can do that. Actually, that'd be a really interesting way of doing it. That's like a Azure function. I'm not writing an Azure function. Um, planning item receiver. So I'm going to register that, and then in here we're going to do configure dot add event receiver, and this is the event, and so this goes to the planning item receiver. I think that could actually be streamlined a little bit. I event receiver, planning item, integration event. And this just receives that event. So at this point, I'm at this phase here, right? I'm going to build this out now. So the beauty of Kafka here is I have all the events that I've created for planning item the last couple of days, right? Because they don't go away. And it hasn't been 2 weeks since is it 8001 or 8080? So there are 23 messages inside of the Kafka topic for this. So I can keep resetting this and use this for testing data right now. Right. So I don't have to just keep going back and creating, I don't have to go through the entire stack and create data. Actually, offset 205. So here you go, 2 weeks ago. So Kafka's got a 14-day retention policy potentially on this configuration. This might disappear soon, but I've got all these messages to work with. These are integration events that happen. So when I start this up, it will actually receive a message and do something. So we need to create an actor, right? And actually, in this case, I can do it all in here, right? Because it's all specific to this project. So this actor just needs to be there now. This can get removed. Actually, I need the sample there. So the for anyone new to this stream, for anyone who doesn't get to hang out here normally, the rule is I'm okay to talk about stuff. I'm happy to discuss. I don't have to be productive. If you have questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to ask. This code isn't open source. The larger project isn't open source, primarily because it's now massive and I don't want to deal with that. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, I still wouldn't open source this right now. But yeah, if you have questions on what I'm doing, if you want to know more, if you want to dig in more, you're more than welcome to ask, and I'll happily divert and discuss. So with this setup, what's going to happen is I need to create an actor. I need to create several actors actually, because the way I'm thinking of doing this, and again, it's kind of a prototype because I want to make sure I understand how Akka's going to process this stuff, right? My understanding is what's going to happen is it's going to hand off to this actor, and it's going to then receive the next message and hand off to the actor. So I could potentially be processing the same planning item multiple times. That's going to be a challenge that I need to figure out first. This may crash, but we'll see. So the way I want this to work is, oh no, I removed the part I wanted to do, but it doesn't really matter because I've got the idea. So I want to start with querying, do I know about this entity? If I don't know about this entity, and this is going to be, I'm going to have to create a mock database of some form here. If I don't know about this entity, then I should add the entity. And I should publish forward an event that says, yep, the event was added. So we're going to just console write line for that for right this second. If I do know about the entity, then I want to proceed and figure out what the change was from the last time I saw this entity. Right. Things I may hit. I'm not going to look at persistence right this second for Akka. There is a way of persisting it because again, once I pull the message out of Kafka and say I'm done with it, I don't get to replay that message. So whatever happens in here, if I don't process it, if it errors in any way, I've got to understand what that means to the larger system. So I won't tell the system this information changed, which can be quite expensive, right? I'm relying upon an external component to calculate what the difference is from before and after the change set. So if two people go in to change things at the same time, who wins, right? Um, I might have to deal with things like that. So there's all sorts of challenges coming down the line for this. Um, some of them I can test, and some of them I'm going to have to figure out how to build large scale integration tests for to prove the resilience of these pieces. But baby steps. Okay, so this actor, let's refactor that, adjust namespace, yeah. What it does is a receive actor, and it receives a sample message, and it just processes that message. That's how it's configured. It logs, it knows when the system starts it up, and it knows when the system shuts it down, so we can actually do things, configure things, etc. on the actor. It's kind of like a running process itself. It just kind of suspends until it's needed, and it will handle the message that's sent in. So there's two types of actors. There's a receive actor and there's a untyped actor. An untyped actor can be sent any message, and it's got the responsibility of figuring out, oh, what do I need to do, right? So it can ask the type, etc. of the message. Um, so I'm gonna try and make this quite explicit to see if it's to try and get the ideas in place and see that they fit with the way Akka and Kafka are working together. So the first one is an exists actor. The challenge with this is it would be nice to be able to use this from everything, because I don't want to create an exists actor for the planning item, an exists actor for the tenant. I don't want to keep creating exists actors for everything. That's going to be challenging. So if message is planning item integration event, no, planning item, right? Now I can do something with this, right? So we're gonna have to create some infrastructure. Data store, right? So what we're gonna do here is create a private list of object data. Yep. I'm gonna add that. We're gonna add it as T so we don't lose the type entirely. Right? That's going to be possible null reference. Private data store. Data equals that. That can't be null. Possible null reference. No, no, no. Public void, public enumerable T get T func T bool predicate. Okay. So just building a simple in-memory database. Okay. Here we're going to do services.add singleton data store, right? So that should allow us to at least store that. And in our exist actor, we're going to inject data store, right? And then var exists equals. So we need to learn about ask and tell. So you can ask an actor something and you can tell an actor something. So if you tell it, it will just deal with it. It will go off and process that on its own, right? It will go and receive the thing and process it. If you ask it, it has a response to give you. Ask. No, we're just not going to work on that one. Okay, fair enough. Getting started. Device actor. Um, so another thing, right? Eh, this is going to be difficult because it's another technology. So now I have mass transit with RabbitMQ. I have Kafka. I'm introducing Akka. I've got SQL Server in there. I can have Couchbase in there. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of technologies. I've got Mediator, and then I've got my own technology stuff on top, right? There's a lot of moving parts which are difficult to hold on to, and I can't become an expert in every single one of them, right? There's no way I can be a top tier expert on every single component. Should that be scary? A little bit, right? Because if you go with what you know, then you fail less, right? Because you can understand how to use those things. But the problem is, I wouldn't consider myself a top tier expert at SQL Server. I wouldn't consider myself a top tier expert at any component because there's a lot of the technology to learn. There's a lot of the pieces I don't use. I can learn through the development of this enough to understand the challenges. I've already figured out how I will do it differently, right? I've already got some ideas in place. I could just use Kafka. But again, I think I'm embracing that ability to use the right technology. I can build this on some assumptions. I can build this on top of some solid ideas. And then later on, if they don't pan out, I can build something else and swap them out. Right. As long as I'm producing the events, it doesn't matter to the rest of the system how those events are produced. So I can focus on this later on. Um, but as long as I understand what I'm doing now, I think it's fine. Supervision and monitoring. We're not going to get into the. I understand the supervision thing. So in terms of error reporting and handling, there is a structure to the way that Akka lays out actors and child actors, etc. So there is some stuff there. Um, Dispatches. I don't think dispatch is something I want to care about. Dependency injection. Um, Aqueduct dependency injection. I think I've got Aqueduct dependency injection already in here to get that working. Packages. I don't. Not yet. We might find out some challenges in a second. Um, Hosting may have actually done some of that stuff for me, so we'll worry about that afterwards. Persistence I need to get to. Um, Finance state machines. Yeah, again. So you can kind of have Akka kind of talk to itself and kind of mutate state throughout many actors as well. Um, uh, why can I not find an example of this? Top level. We asked. We don't ask. We're never asking anything. It's all tell. It's all tell. So what I think I should do is create a processor actor. And again, I'm guessing. I'm trying to figure this out as I go, and it's why I'm streaming it, right? Because if I stream it, then it's out there. People can pick up on it if they want to. If people see stuff and they want to talk about it, then fine. So I wonder if no, I can't because I don't have control over this. So it'd be nice to okay, well now I've done this up here, right? Do I need to do anything else? But yeah. So in this, we're going to say var result equals. So do I inject actors? Inject actors. I don't think I do. Other actors. I think I inject. I think I inject the actors system. System, and then I can do system dot var actor equals system dot actor of exists actor. Okay, exists actor. And then that would be name TBD. Oh dear. This is small things. Prompts dot create exists actor. No. Props dot create type of no, it's new exists actor. That would be weird. Mummy, mummy actor and daddy actor. Are we doing Peppa Pig actor? Receive actor, daddy actor, iService. Mummy actor. Okay, we're gonna test it. We're not gonna mess around with that, right? So I wonder if I can inject an exists actor in here. So then we can say if exists actor dot ask. No, that's not gonna give me an actual actor, is it? Interesting. So actor system, and then in here do system dot actor of exists actor. Why don't you like that? Must be a non-abstract type with a public parameters construction in order to use it as right. So that has a challenge there. So DI is going to be a challenge, it looks like. But it's it. So what I'm trying to write is in here we're going to roughly say this. If exists message, then we want to process changes, right? Because we're going to compare what have we seen before to what we have now and tell the system what changed. Otherwise, we're going to say publish new message. So this process actor is the one that's going to be handed off to. So in our planning item receiver, what we're going to do is we're going to inject a potentially actor system again. I saw an example of this, so I'm going to go back and look at how that was done. But we're going to inject the actor system in there. in our receiver, and this is going to do system dot actor of props dot create something like that, right? And then we're going to tell it the event, right? So we're going to pass it the event down. Return task.completed task. What this means is Akka's going to take over here. So it's going to hand off this message and Akka's going to take over. So in terms of threads wise, this is going to go back and tell Kafka, yep, I'm good. We process this, because if you look at the code that I've got for Kafka, I have the topic consumer, abstraction, samples, services. Huh. I feel I've got some reorganization to do here, because what that's telling me is that my code structure is not quite as apparent as I want it to be. So that's interesting. I've got a publisher there. I've got the dispatching Kafka consumer, but that is just a consumer that is, oh, it's a topic consumer. There we go. So a topic consumer. So the way the consumer works is it's going to create the builder, get the consumer, then run in a loop, right? So it's going to consume the message. If the message is null for whatever reason, skip on to the next one. Get the event, deserialize it as T event, right? If the event is null, we go where. Otherwise, we take the event receiver and we call receive event. And then when that's completed, we call commit, which says to Kafka, we're good, we got this, right? Once we fire this, right, it will return immediately. It is asynchronous, it will run off, but you can't await it. You can't say, oh, hold up, I need to do this, right? You're telling it of the actor, this is going to give me the actor instance back. I'm going to tell it, here's the event. That's asynchronous. That now goes off and runs inside of the process of Akka. Once I do this, Kafka's going to acknowledge that and move on to the next message, which is my concern, because it means that I could potentially receive the same planning item that I just received, right? So this is going to be challenging. Also, I probably, for the sake of dealing with this, I do want some semaphore stuff in here to deal with the multi-threading nature of what I'm about to attempt. Because if I try and touch these are not concurrent collections. So concurrent bag. Data to add. Yeah, add public void update t item data. That's not going to be a thing. That's gonna work by virtue of, yeah, we'll figure that out in a second. I don't need to worry about the update part just yet. So yeah, if there's any questions, make data read only. No. The object is read only. No, it doesn't need to be. So in the exists actor, we're going to inject the data store. We're going to check to see var exists equals data store dot get. So the challenge now is I need a model, right? Let's create models planning item. This is going to represent the database object, right? So I've got to build this out enough to be a proxy for what I'm actually going to build. So view infrastructure entities, planning item. It's probably this. Let's go with this first. Right. Let's go with that. Let's see what happens. So planning item is P goes to P dot identifier. Identifier. Not first to default. Start as you mean to go on, right? The reason that doesn't exist is because that is an inherited event of view base. Oh. I know I'm copying in large chunks of my code. I'm copying in large chunks of existing code, but I just want to get to the point of demonstrating this piece for myself more than anything else, right? Right. So that should stop that complaining. So we're going to go to the data store. We're going to get the planning item that matches that, and we're going to get first the default on that. And then we're going to do return. So this is where I'm getting into the ask thing. I need to figure out what does ask, how does ask respond? Ads are going to start on Twitch in about a minute. I do apologize again. So we need to go to Akka. We need to go to the Akka docs. I need to figure out where ask is used. To system. Supervision and monitoring, actor references, paths. Looking up actors, summary of actors, reusing actors. Interesting that I don't have ask versus tell in here. Does make me consider supervision monitoring, actor references and paths, add systems. Ask, there you go. I actor bridge. When deploying Akka, so that comes back with a response. That's the difference. Ask. Actor ask. So how do we set up an actor that can be asked a question? Is the question. So do we set it up differently? Do we untyped actor? So that's an abstract method, right? So let's have a look. TBD, TBD, TBD. That's not good. So receive, on receive, abstract void. Receive, override bool, receive. So is there an untyped actor? No, that's not a thing. I can't do that because that's not legal. So let's have a look. Akka. ask. It's important to distinguish between Akka.net and Akka. Although it's based on it is, as I understand it, not kind of a code copy. Late night dev. Late night, 10 past 10. No, not what I'm asking. You can hook Akka into Kafka as well, I've learned, but yeah, that's not. Don't ask. My actor, receive actor, receive request, ask reply. So the ping pong stuff is often the demonstrator here. Receive, reply and stop. Seems overly complicated. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but that's now 9 years, 8 years old. I know ask isn't as often used as tell because it's kind of preferred because it's, but I don't think it's actually synchronous to ask. So that's going to be one of the things I want to see. Actor A, ask, actor B. Tell only pattern, the pipe pattern. Patterns.pipe. Yeah, we're not quite that advanced yet. I like how these are completely lacking every time. I think even this demo, this demo is a tell. API reference, API docs. Ask at task scheduler. I don't think I'm going to be successful on this one. I know I can look up you standard standard Petabridge Akka.net example. There you go. So Aaron Stannard is I think the founder of Akka.net, or rather Petabridge, which is the company that runs Akka.net primarily. Clustering reliability. Well, we get into a Akka.net code samples. That's not really Akka.net code samples, is it? Event sourcing and CQRS. I'm not trying to go this deep straight away. Throw of generic child parenthesis. Um, what to then? Seems like there's something missing there. Ask. No. Ask. Don't ask. Tell. 2016. Come on. 2015. So much stuff. I mean, it's the good news is it's been around for a long time, right? The bad news is uh, they are updating this. It's not I'm using a library that's completely out of date, right? Um, yeah, let me. I'm having a moment right now because I've seen a demo on this recently. So, not GitHub. You get Acco.net. Okay, 2 days ago. All right, it is being updated. Uh, right, there's plenty to do. Let me off screen. So I know what I want to try and do here. I know what I'm trying to achieve. The difficulty is how actions process messages. Yeah. Starters. Come on, I want to see code. No, not the video I was after. I saw an example. Um, so I'm looking for a code sample. Oh, don't get into CQRS. No, it's driving me crazy. The problem is that with this application stack, I'm trying to solve the problems using technologies that are best suited to those things, right? So in this case, I'm trying to use a technology that's best suited to parallelism, and distributing that data and distributing that responsibility. I can add in extra nodes relatively quickly and get the processing throughput that I need. Changes are something that's going to be calculated all the time. But a lot of these libraries have kind of embraced this. Well, we can solve all the problems with a bit of change. Then we don't need to have any other integrations. So there's a whole CQRS component to Akka and stuff and message and whatnot. And even Kafka as Confluent has kind of embraced that of late and kind of demonstrated using it as a message bus, but it's not a message bus. It wasn't built for a message bus. So I'm trying to use the right technologies that I feel are appropriate and distinct. Again, I have set usages here, right? Kafka, I'm going to use Kafka to produce data. That's primarily what I'm doing. The events are inferred by the things that consume them. The actual usability of the events, it's just data. If I need to tell the system something explicitly, I'm going to create events using mass transit and RabbitMQ. So I'm going to use eventing at that level to tell components of the application things, right? Um, hey, how you doing, Ian? How you doing? I am currently playing with Akka, or trying to play with Akka. I'm struggling at a bit of a stumbling point. I'm doing good, doing good. Just I'm tired, and this is my way of kind of focusing enough to get get through this. So I figured I'd stream, get the stream up and get working on this. So what I'm trying to do is get this component in here. So using the same events that the view consumes for the data, kind of go and figure out, okay, well, what changed? And then publish a stream of changes out and ultimately notifications, because again, I'm starting to move towards these review dates. So when the review date goes past you, get notified. How do you want to be notified? All those sorts of fun things. So, but right now I'm struggling with, I need to ask this actor, um, do you exist? And it return yay or nay. So I'm trying to find an example, and it actually seems pretty difficult to find an example of an actor asking another actor for something. The documentation seems to be lacking in this respect, so it's frustrating me right this second. Let's have a look. Let's see. Tell. Ask. Do not use ask. Class actor selection rule. Academic. Let's have a look. Let's see if they give an example. Ask string. That's just rules. Uh, looking for. I'd love some samples here. Be really good. Actors untyped receive. The actor model provides a high level of abstraction for writing concurrent and distributed systems. Too bad for you. Um, it doesn't permit you to put links in, even though you're. He has just begun rewriting the docs. It's not letting me see those links because, but you're a sub. I thought it would allow you. Yeah, please. I know several of the docs so far have come up and um, reply to messages. Here we go. Receive no. Yeah, the documentation comes up as TBD, which is just more amusing. I closely follow Aaron, but never use Akka. Yeah. So the reason I'm using Akka here is because Akka supports the parallelism that will allow me to um, truly pull these changes quickly, right? If I was to use Kafka, I could use Kafka and scale out the number of consumers to parallelize that effort. But if I use Akka, I get the benefit of having a single service that uses more of my CPU, more of the available threads. It deals with all those concurrency issues. Um, well, some of them. I've got a feeling I'm going to hit one of them very quickly. I'm going to have to overcome. but it does deal with those sorts of things, and I can describe the process more accurately. With Kafka, I'm going to end up with a handler that receives the code and does some processing and does a lot of stuff. Whereas I can break these down into individual pieces with Akka. So I think it is the right technology for the job. I just got to learn my way through it. So how do you set up an actor for ask? That's what I'm trying to figure out right a second. Untyped actor. Working on the full rewrite of Akka.net's documentation, Akka hosting makes it so much easier to write a sample than it before. Nice. Yeah, they are. It seems there are a lot of good points to use Akka, but the whole web is stateless, so why care? I care man when it comes to Akka. Well, again, it's kind of to me, it's important to try, especially now. I have the chance to explore technologies, right? Um, and I do know that I what I want from this. So to be able to tell me the review date changed, to be able to tell me the assigned to changed, to be able to tell me, oh, this project changed, etc. I need something to process that. I need something to figure it out. Like I said, I can do this. I can do this in Kafka. I think that though the Kafka code would not look as elegant and would actually be less flexible than the Akka side of things. And also to get scale out, to get throughput there, I would have to start multiple consumers very early on in the process, right? Because the moment that I have two people making changes, those changes are going to get backed up. If that goes to 10 people, those changes are going to get backed up even further. So I have to scale out the number of Kafka consumers very quickly. Whereas with Akka, I can just put this on its own dedicated machine, even with 4 cores or whatever, and I have that throughput straight away. Um, so I can get more of the actual resources of the system used effectively through using Akka. So I think it's a good choice to kind of experiment with it now. It could go the way of Couchbase, right? It could go the way of I get so far, realize the limitations of it that don't suit my needs right now, and back it out. And that's okay if I do it because I've learned a lot along the way to get there. Um, so but it will benefit me, right, to understand that. And again, I want to the way this is going to work is I have two types of changes. The live changes, which I'm referring to as changes, are monitoring. Monitoring is, oh, this expired, or this hasn't been touched in 2 weeks, or those sorts of things, like watching the system as a whole and being able to say things aren't going quite as well as you expect, right? Um, in terms of a story hasn't moved or a ticket hasn't been updated in 6 weeks, right? You want to be told about those things. Notifications is the consumer of those events, and will be responsible for. I think the notifications component in general will have its own. It's kind of this is cyclical, right? It'll have its own API, and users will be able to configure what do they need to care about, right? How do they care about it, right? So notifications as a system will care, will track, oh, the person wants to be told live about these things, but wants to be told in a daily digest about these things, right? Uh, And also notifications are broadcast mostly with parallelism. You get going to hit us simultaneously, high or simultaneously, it will create back pressure as well. You can somewhat set back pressure in Akka. There's going to be, not quite sure I understand the back pressure concept, so I'm going to look it up. Um, uh, is it distributed systems from the resisted flow of data? I'll have to deal with it at some point for its frequent problem, but the term itself isn't as understood. Uh, yeah, that's what back pressure is. I don't want analogies. Gotcha. I'm sending this in fast, but it's coming out slow. Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah. It's again, one of the things you can embrace in a system like this is the most important thing is that I don't lose data, right? So notifications, etc. I don't I don't want to lose them, and as close to real time as possible is the ideal. It's probably 15 years from now. Yeah. Real time notifications are not something that I am necessarily striving for. Close to real time is good enough, right? Um, what I need is the system to be resilient to, I need it to be consistent for data. So if I change something, I want that change to be there. Right. I don't want it to be lost. And that's what the system's doing so far, the way it's designed, is I save the thing and then everything else is external to that, right? Even the view is external to that. It's a separate concern. So the primary concern is capture the data that the user has asked us to capture, validate it by all means, make sure that the actual data makes sense in the context of the system. But once it's captured, it's captured. It's not going to change again randomly, or it's not going to break, etc. So that's why the core databases are there. That's why the publishing to Kafka, the embracing the fact that distributing this data and publishing it around does give me a lot of flexibility and a lot of advantages. Yes, there may be slowness, right? Eventual consistency is a thing that I'm going to have to deal with, right? If I change something, my manager shouldn't see the notification that this thing changed within half a second. Might do, might work fine. Um, but you shouldn't need to worry about it being there half a second later. You can be comfortable a couple of seconds after it tells you it's there. That's fine. So um, yeah, pushing through the throughput of the data. Again, like you said, it's a problem for 15 years from now, not necessarily um, tomorrow. Workatel, Workatel, Workatel. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to ask Gemini. Um, how do you configure actor to be asked? How do you configure asking in Akka.net? Or specific configuration for asking. You use the ask method on the target actor reference. This method takes two arguments. A message you want to send out to a time span. Returns a task. Right, but I want to see. I want to see. Don't just keep giving me code. receive int, receive async. But if I remove that, that's an abstract base. Receive actor. CTOR. Uh, receive. Yeah, but that's not. That's not that though, is it? No, it's not two arguments. Oh, it is. X, Y. Do you actually have a Y? No. You can basically calculate the lag factor with Q theory. Kafka is supposed to be processing streaming data in real time, but then the resource is saturated and you need to upgrade. But you're too late for that. I mean, for me, it's a nice problem to have, right? It's a nice problem to have to worry about. Uh, add to self, add to paths, logical. This is interesting, but I don't have. Import, scheduling, untyped. The untyped attribute is recommended for C#7 users. Why? Receive that. This is this is quite telling though. Ask, send, and receive future. While ask waits for response, it does not ensure it receives any kind of priority. Messages sent via ask queue in to mailbox is the same way that messages are sent via tell. Right. Show me an example of an ask response. Like that's what I'm after. Right. Mailbox is it's not mailbox. Even though it uses the word mailbox in that other one. Dispatchers. This is what's worrying me right this second. Okay, the documentation's been overhauled, but what does that mean for me right this second? Uh, the only thing is I've seen an example, I just don't remember where I saw it, and that's bugging me. Um, untyped actors, untyped API is recommended for C#7 users, suggesting that as of C#7 and beyond, it's good for everything. receive messages. See on receive objects. That's a generic receive and untyped. That's kind of what I want to do, right? Because what I'm aiming for here is figuring out, okay, which thing am I going for? Um, so the untyped is okay here. So that's a generic on receive. Or general on receive, not a generic. Poor choice of words. That's a data store. Data store. Right. That's fine. But how do I respond? So maybe it is context. Dot. It ain't that. So again, there I can tell. Uh, nice to know someone else embraces the that funky style. Nothing like a good comical interface. I didn't expect to be stuck here, to be quite frank. I'm concerned by how stuck I am so early on in this process because I think that I've got the right idea and I think I'm using the actors appropriately. I don't think I tell the parent though. Sender.tell. Does it transition it like a state? Does no, because that would actually have to have me receive different events, right? Because I could tell the existing to process it, and when the existing processes it, it could tell the processor to move on, right? So I could actually chain these together as events. But I think the ask is the correct thing. Yeah, that would be the finance state machine. It could actually. I've done this before. I've implemented the FSM. So when I'm processing a bunch of data, I actually the first time I tackled this exact problem, what I tried to do was say, okay, well, there's many layers to the processing. So the first layer is figure out, are there changes? Yes, there are. Okay, well, then transition to the processing state. And I'd track that state so I knew where things were. So if it restarted, it could resume with the data it had. But I'd also manipulate that data. I don't think this is uh, I don't think this is that case. I think that would be overcomplicating this right now because I'm not manipulating this. I'm just trying to make a decision on what event, what I need to do next. And the first one is, have I seen this before? If I have seen this before, then I need to test. I need to look at the two things and compare, and then produce a message. Um, so it's frustrating that I'm so stuck. Um, there's got to be a good example using ask. So let's see if Gemini can help. How do I reply? How do I reply to an actor that has asked actor to do something in hacker.net. Reply to the sender. So you do tell the sender, okay. But that seems really broken then, because then, okay, so here's how that goes. The processor, if we do it that way, right? The processor is an untyped actor. And what it does is it says, let's create the messages. It says the entity already exists, or the entity does not exist, right? So public period, and those would be T entity, like period identifier. How can I misspell identify that badly? Identifier, where T entity is base. Actually, gonna do that. Period identifier. Everything is an identifier, so that should be a safe enough assumption. TNT. Yeah, I suppose that doesn't matter, does it? Entity doesn't exist. Type, entity type. And this is the opposite, right? Record. Type. Entity already exists. Right? So then in the exists actor, this is messy, but then we do sender.tell new entity already exists, type of planning. Oh no, planning item, sorry. And then exist dot identifier. If exists, so again, that's going to be exists equals null, not equal to null. Exists is not null. Otherwise, right? So then that doesn't make sense, because then we're dispatching that. I suppose, yeah, we are. If so, switch message case case message is Amal. Hello, how are you doing? How's things? Still good evening for me. Coming upon 11 o'clock. I don't use this stuff near enough with the pattern matching. One of you. Since long didn't join. Yeah. Yeah. I've been missing people. I have been making solid progress on the platform stuff. I don't know if you've been keeping up with any of the videos as well. Been doing a bit of game dev here and there. So if message is, so we right now we have, we've made progress on the platform. We've got a lot of, well, not a lot of features actually. Yeah, I'm tinkering with Akka.net because I want to kind of try and explore identifying changes in my in the data. So trying to see if this fits the need, and I think it does. I think I've just got to get my head around the use cases. What are you? I don't think that's actually. Oh, there we go. That's complaining about that. So I suppose what this is if it's a um, I integration event. Uh, event. Constant value is expected. Yeah, that's what I was concerned about. My syntax on this switch. Um, switch pattern matching. I do not use these very often. I just gotta get my head around. Oh yeah. I just Google it too. Yeah, I just don't. So it's message switch for one, I think. Um, no, because that would be the response. That's not that. It is this way. Um, you can pattern match, I'm pretty certain. Uh, uh, pattern matching overview. Haven't really come up with transform switch case to switch expression yet. Yeah, they do have some stuff. I just command switch. Well, I thought there was a way of doing it in the regular switch. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's only on the old school style. But ultimately, what I want to say is because again, the way this is set up now, right? The the integration event's going to come in here, right? But this actor is going to receive the different events, so it's going to move on like a state. It's going to move on like that state machine that I was talking about. Uh, Fritura, hello, how are you doing? This Akka.net is it only a tool or an actual framework that aims to replace ASP? So Akka.net doesn't aim to replace Akka implements the actor pattern, and what it's really focused on is parallel, like scalable distributed systems. So in this case, I want to lean into the parallelism of its processing capabilities so that I can handle and process many changes coming through the system at once, right? Because again, if 10 people come into this system and they change the review dates and they change the creative binds, they assign to the projects, they change tickets, they change stories, they move things around, etc. Lots of things are going to happen. So what I want to do is be able to process these events coming through here. So again, the integration events that I publish from here should be calculated as differences, right? So if I change the planning item, I want this to say, oh, well, I've seen the planning item before. This is what my current version looks like. Oh, here's the fields that changed to publish those events forward. I want to be able to do that. So I'm using Akka to process these events. Akka does scale pretty well and it can be expanded very easily without too much configuration. from what I know so far. So it does make sense. It's just, and it also allows me to describe using its actors. So an actor has a job, right? So the actors, in this case, I want the exists actor. What this does is it's going to pick up the item, and I might make this more generic, whatever, and it's going to tell me, does it exist or does it not exist? And that's its job. And then the processor is going to respond to that. So the processor is kind of the coordinating actor. It's going to fire off these requests and do things. Um, my challenge so far is though that I'm not using this as a state machine. I don't want to use this as a state machine. And this is, I don't believe, um, remember, ask involves asynchronous communication, so your reply should be sent with an asynchronous context. Yeah. So I don't understand. Because I think this would work, but I want to be able to, I want really, ideally, I want to say ask. Um, uh, if I use ask, how do I reply? You reply to, but you don't. You're just repeating the same thing. Can you show me an example of the sender and the uh, asking the other actor for sender actor, worker actor asks some response message. Ah, await the response. So, okay. So the way that that's demonstrated there, what this does is this works still, I believe, right? With sender. So we are still just telling because everything's asynchronous anyway. All these are different things. It's just how Akka coordinates those events happening. So in here, I can do, but I don't have tasks. Where do you give me a task? Okay. So you make this a receive actor. This changes this up quite a bit because it makes a bit of a mess, I think. But I think the idea is that you shouldn't be composing massive processes in here. Um, so this is going to receive a planning item integration event, right? And then in here, what we want to do is var exists actor equals exists actor. Right. And then we're going to do, so we can make that async. So now we can actually embrace. And then, uh, so let's, that's actually not, now I need to kind of generalize it because I think that needs to be a response. So this is an entity exists response. and it is all exists plus false. That's horrendous, but anyway, we can worry about representing it differently later on. What I need to get working right this second is the actual process, right? So we're not going to do it that way anymore. We're going to do this because we're asking for this, right? The synchronicity means that I don't need to know. I don't need to know about the identity because I'm not responding in it out of process. I'm not passing the messages back and forth here. I'm actually going to pause and wait on this one. So this is going to say var response equals await exists actor dot ask, and this is going to be an entity exists response. I'm going to send it the message, right? If response dot exists. Actually, we don't need to default that at all because we actually do care. Right. Now we get into it. If it exists, so here what we want to say is if it exists, we need to calculate changes. If it doesn't, we yeah. So hmm, let's see if we can see if it works pretty quickly, right? Console.writeLine exists. So again, we can say message.identifier exists. Else doesn't exist. And then the irony, we can put some other stuff in there in a second. But anyway, let's not mess around with colors, etc. We don't want to waste the time doing that. That's bothering me that the really private. Uh, that doesn't like that because that should be that, right? Yeah. I'm optimizing before I'm even getting to that point. Let's see if this works. So again, I'm using my my Kafka library here to consume these events, right? So I'm going to have to this will, because this is consuming this, it will actually pull the Kafka configuration. We'll just have to copy in the app. We'll have to add the app settings in there. So let's get them in there now. I didn't default it to this. So, properties action. Okay, that's that. And then we need to go and get the consumer configuration from over here. So Again, if you have any questions about what I'm doing, if you are interested in knowing more about what this is doing, or you know, knowing about the project, I'm happy to show stuff. Um, this is a hacker demo integration. So again, we're going to start the topic querying. We're going to set it to the earliest on each topic that we consume. We're not configuring the topics that we're going to consume here. What's happening is when I register these receivers, that's actually going to set up the topic subscriptions. So that's fine, and it'll pull from console the actual Kafka configuration. So for each integration type, it knows which topic it's going to pull from for that. So here we're going to go registry.register the we need the actors now. So we're gonna have to register the exists actor, and this syntax I'm still getting my head around. So this is a system.actor of that. You can't do that because you've got to do props.create. Props being this, but again, the challenge is I can't do that because I'm going to get the dependency injection problem. So let's go back over here and try and do system.actor of exists actor. Why don't you like that? Must be a non-abstract type with public parameters constructor. Okay, so here we go. Now we've got a challenge. Try register. Is this actor? See, this one's an actor ref. But I can't get an actor ref because system again. I'm gonna get stuck in a loop here because I'm gonna say, okay, well, I want to create it, and that's gonna be an exist actor, but that's gonna go no because I can't create that because I don't have a public constructor in it. So let's go back to Akka. I'm gonna keep confusing them. We've got dependency injection. As of Akka 145, Akka DI core and all libraries that implemented deprecated. Just use dependency injection. So here, add singleton. How does this help me with actor constructor? Mixed actor. How does that help me with dependency injection? Allows you to inject an service provider. Okay, I don't want a service provider. I want DI to kind of take over here, and I thought it would do because there we go. I can do props.create or dot register exists actor system.actor of props.create exists actor. Exists actor. So that does make me think that here I want to get the actor, not actually create a new actor. Because what's the point in registering them here if I have because what's the point in using this if I should be able to say system.get actor of exists actor. Huh. Interesting. It's the same syntax. So I've got to register it. That seems redundant. That seems very redundant. What does that complain about? So that it needs the actor ref. So I need to create an actor. Registry.register processor actor system actor of. Again, I can't use the generics here because I have to create. I think you can pass other things into props as well, um, which helps. Okay. The challenge for me right now is there's so much code that I've got to do. Uh, I'm gonna struggle through the setup. So what we want to see happen, I want to receive the event from the Kafka consumer. I should hit here, and then I should navigate into here, right? And this receive should say, okay, well, I've got that event, so I can handle it, and I'll call into this one. So that registers the receiver for that actor. The exists actor is an untyped actor that I can send a message into, and I can ask if the message isn't the right event. So again, I'm using the event to determine what to look up. This is going to have to flex somewhere because I'm going to have to define some sort of clearer way of doing this because it's going to be rinse and repeat. The only thing that's going to change is this. So maybe I create a dictionary of integration event to planning to data store object, and I can refer to it. And the data store right now is a singleton so that I can kind of keep track of this. But what I think is going to happen is when this runs in parallel, and this is going to get hard to debug now because of the nature of it, once it fires off that first one and I hit F5, it's going to hit the second one. So I'm going to go back and forth with debugging this. If I've got breakpoints in here, because it's going to run them in parallel, I'm going to get stuck there. So I am going to have to tackle the problem of I might receive two messages for the same entity right behind each other. I can't guarantee which one finishes first, so I'm going to have to look into some level of um, um, stabilization there on a single entity. Um, so yeah, that's going to be the biggest challenge. So let's run this one. Um, yeah, once I see it happen, I just want to see if it even gets to the startup right now. Um, once I see it happen, then we can build on that. I expect it to error. There you go. Okay. Error while creating an actor instance of type process actor with zero args. Uh, Error while creating actor instance of type process actor with zero args. Oh, really? Where? Uh, Zero args. But I want the actor system in there. But I want the actor system in there. That is the actor system. Yeah, that is the actor system. This is how I construct these. Constructor not found. Error while creating. Okay, so that doesn't work. So let's have a look at what kind of runtime error is that? Eh, dependency injection. I don't think this is going to solve my problems magically. I think this is going to create more problems, but let's get there. That was a different kind of error, wasn't it? It's quite an interesting message. Do you like using the colors? Wow, I managed a 2 hour stream already. Uh So it's struggling to construct them. So even though that syntax suggests everything's fine, it really isn't. This doesn't create some magic. This still needs dependency. So again, coming back to the dependency injection stuff, I'm not trying to do this. I'm trying to I don't need complicated. Actor system. No. Actor.net, actor system with dependencies. Canonical actor. Actor.net is a .NET Foundation project. Nice. Concurrency, stream processing, where can I learn? They do have a course. Actually, they do have a built-in course. Here you can do a boot camp and go through things. I just don't want to. I don't want to do that on stream for certain. Um, I apologize. I'm getting tired. I could have done it succinctly. Working with actors, 2018. Again, old. I appreciate the free ebook, but yeah. Wow, all the old stuff. Castle Windsor, Autofac, ACADI, deprecated ACADI support. We're on 1.5, so yeah, we're definitely beyond that. No, don't make me go injecting service providers. That's not fun. Resolve my dependencies. Just give me a way of resolving dependency resolved by anti-system props. No, that ain't fair. But because it's failing here. So how do I do that? Let's have a look. There's no extension for it. There's no configuration for it. So what do you want me to do? Bootstrap. This might be the single worst code sample I've seen in a long time. How old's this video? I mean, it does a lot of content. I will say there is an awful lot of content for this library. Again, how old is this content, right? 2 months ago. Okay, so this is relatively recent. Yeah, stop waffling. Okay. Install Active Dependency Injection. We just did that. Props created by iService provider. So we can do dependency resolver for. Okay. That is horrendous. So var exists props equals dependency resolver dot for system dot props exists actor. And then that would go in there. And then var processor props, same thing. That would go in there. But my challenge now is, what does this do? Does this work because the actor exists? Design time support, $4,000 per year for just so you know. Wow. That actually raises a very good point, right? I'm quite happily dropping technologies in here. Oh, there we go. We did get to that receive. It's going to fail here. Um, I'm quite happily dropping technologies in. Everything's working fine, right? Um, what happens when I don't know or I hit a problem with the technology? Like this, right? Um, let's say I got a bit further and then I hit a really complicated use case. What do I do then? How do I get around that? Do I need support? Do I need training? So every technology you do add does add potential training cost. We're not receiving a message, are we? We didn't get here. So the processor actor started up. The exist actor would have started up as well. I assume. But the planning item receiver is not receiving. So how do we do that? How do we fix that? So let's go back to our liquid sky. We need to. But again, do I shy away from this because it might cost money down the line? Is it worth it to me to invest the time now into this technology that, let's say, 6 months from now, I have 50 customers and those customers are paying me hundreds of dollars a month each? Is that $4,000 worth it if I'm getting the use out of the technology? Probably, right? Um, I've got to look at it in that respect. If I was to build the system and I get 1,000 users, 10,000 users in the course of a couple of years, the licensing costs alone will cover those fees. But I suppose that's why big enterprisey software does start to cost a lot more money, because the actual things they're using to provide those enterprisey features start to stack up, right? So add dispatching consumer. That should have consumed, I believe. No, it shouldn't have done because it's going to start. No, earliest it should have. It should have. I'm being strange there. Topics. There should be another consumer group there though. Planning items. Absolutely, but the entry barrier is huge. It seems not that it shouldn't be. For this technology particularly, yeah, it does seem a little bit harder, but I think the so that configured my actors, but it didn't hit my receiver. So it was actually this part that wasn't doing its job. It was me that wasn't setting things up. So again, add transient. Should they be transient? Yeah. So I configure the repos. I configure the transients. Uh, into event to receiver. I didn't screw that up, right? Event to receiver. No, I didn't. Oh, oh, I'm a dope. Hey, I'm out. Good night and happy coding. Junicas, thank you very much for hanging out. Appreciate it. Uh, hope to see you again soon. Take care, man. And may your VR adventures be fun. Okay, so there's a problem here. There's a problem with doing what I'm doing here. Take care, I hope. Nice. My namespace. I can't have this namespace because the namespace of the event is part of the messaging, right? So this integration event over here is part of events integration. So to get this to work, I actually have to make it match events integration. But the problem is it will not match events integration because it will match this. When you read the view docs, you appreciate it so much because no docs like it. See ya. So there's my problem. I'm not using the library. So what I need to do here is remove these. Actually, I can move this over here as well now. I can get rid of shared in this context. Right. I can delete this. I can't use it. This is going to be a constant problem. Well, it's not going to be a constant problem in the context of my main project, right? Because um, everything's using edit, delete project and folder. Yeah, next, that's fine. Add a reference, add from. This is going to be quite a challenge. Liquid Sky, source, messaging, Kafka, bin, debug. Now, messaging, events, bin, debug, a events. These will include now, by the way. But that receiver needs to change as well. This should work now because the namespace of everything is going to be valid. It does mean that I probably do need to look at using, because right now everything's integrated, right? So all the systems are going to be part of the shared library. They're all going to use that same DLL reference for the events. So their namespacing on all those are going to be valid. That's not a problem. When it becomes a problem is if I want to get a separate component up, I want to consume the Kafka data. I don't want that DLL. And that's where something like Kafka's schema comes in place, right? So schema is, I say, okay, connect to the schema system and consume, create me the models of the objects. But if I do that, then the namespacing of the classes that I create there aren't going to match the classes that I've actually serialized out. So the mapping of the topic to the event is great. Well, I've got a DLL to build off of. So I need to redesign that once I get to schema, because there's a fatal flaw in that. So let's start that again. This should hit this event. You must have a reference to assembler share kernel. Oh, reference. I'm gonna do it just because it's not. I mean, it's not ideal, but it is. This is a prototype. It is fine. It's just not ideal. Okay, so we've got our receiver configured. What I want to see here is that a second consumer group is started. That's really what tell me that this is working well enough. Consumer groups. See, it's not. Why are you not working? Let's go to the one where I know there's a consumer group that's working, because I know Vue does have it working. Vue's about as good as it gets because it's Yeah, yeah, I might want to do that. That's a missing piece. Yeah, I probably want to make that a component of my my library, don't I? So, you need a worker service to be watching, and I've seemingly left that to the implement to the user to implement. So that's not ideal because that's the service that will actually consume. So we do see the breakpoint hit on the receive. So it registers the receive handler. Value that should work. That's like a console address. Yeah, that's all copied and pasted. I don't see what the problem with that is. Let's have a look. So again, if you're new to the stream, if you are interested in what I'm actually doing, feel free to ask. Or if you're not new to the stream, that's all okay too. This is my bet is it's trying to register the 549. Yeah, that's fine. This begins consumer and event consumer. That's the service that loops through all the registered event receivers. Well, that's the only one that I'm actually using an address of. Localhost 992. Docker's running fine. You can see Docker running fine. Did that actually register my consumer group? No, it still didn't register the consumer group there, so it's not even got to that point. Where would ask Copilot? Copilot what to do. So my bet is we could test that. We could put it to the test. Is oh, hold on. Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you? That's that. Why are you there? Figure. Ah, it's because I've got that's that. Okay. I'm dispatching consumer. What's that? Um, debugger break right there and that there. Okay, so let's have a look. I think it's starting up and it doesn't have the configuration is what that's failing for. If we go to 10, and we go to spread the variables and we go host context, dot configuration, console address. Null. That's why that is failing. Copy always. Kafka, so console address. I don't see what's wrong with that. Why are you actually having an issue? Because I know why. Host builder. There is no configuration loader here. Normally, I'm starting these from create default builder. That's why create default builder has configuration built into it. I'm not built. That's why I didn't get app settings when I created it, because I'm not even building it that way. So if I go back here and say host dot create default builder, now I'll get configuration and that will work probably. So let's have a look. Okay, so let's go over here. Oh, look, we have an address. We configure our handler, and there we go. We've received our event. So we've got a Kafka event. We hit F5 and we explode. Actor name, process actor is not unique. So how do I get the actor? So that's because I called it processor actor over here and I called it processor actor in there. How do I get the instance of the actor is the question. How do I get, let's have a look and see if Gemini knows. How do I get an existing actor by reference? In academic journal, obtain an existing actor by reference for a specific scenario. Context to actor selection. TBD, TBD, TBD. Actor of. Let's see if I'll do it. Entity exists actor. Yeah, you can't do that, right? You can't do actor selection either. That's ridiculous. If that's a parent, you can use methods like parent ask. Because that's as if I'm configuring a brand new actor of that type. And realistically, I shouldn't need, because it's stateless, right? Is my understanding. So, right, I shouldn't have to worry about um, with actors, hello actor, create, props.create, new element. There's a lot of mess in there. I don't get that. So they talk to me through a channel, but you need to. Well, you need the. I need the. I can't inject that actor, right? That's the problem. I mean, maybe I can now. Maybe I can. Maybe I can say, okay, I want the exist actor. Now that DI is configured, can I do that? Exists actor. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that temporarily. Right, let's do that. Let's do that. I mean, that doesn't know about ask. Why do you not know about ask if you know what an exist actor is? Yeah, because that's not actually an actor. That's the weird part. I heard you could create millions of actors. Injecting it should be okay, right? Uh, you'd think it would be. Actor of props dot create. That's where I was before, right? Um, I don't want to inject the dependency resolver. That would be bad. but props doesn't. Props is see what that's telling me is I can get away with that if I can do context. Then I don't need to have the actor system involved because context is the actor system. But that's an untyped actor. That's really weird. Um, but that won't work because I've got exists. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, from what he says, from what he talks about, there is very little memory used per actor. There is very little system resources used per actor. Um, okay, so we're still receiving. So because I failed out, I probably didn't complete that, which means that I carried on. And here we go. That's the problem. It's there. It's this one that's the problem. Actor system. So I'm getting. It's not actually the processor actor that was doing the problem. It was here. Um, it would have hit the same problem because I'm going to get that. Um, system dot instant as instant salt. No, inexpensive. Yeah, a very small actor selection. But it's not. It's user processor actor bar selection equals that selection dot tell event actor. Let's see. So this is me relying on the hierarchy, which I'm not entirely certain I want to be doing, but there we go. There's our actor. There we go. Ooh. And now we get onto the multi-threading part of the night. Uh, so what happened then is we went back and hit planning item receiver with the next planning item, which is probably the same planning item, right? So the exists actor. Yep, there we go. There we go. There we go. Yeah, this is gonna be messy because I'm now processing them all in parallel. Actor now name that exists, right? So they're being processed in parallel now, right? So that's just making a bigger and bigger mess. But that's why I'm streaming this, right? I'm streaming this because I wanted to go through this and try and get some progress made. So we could do the same thing, right? We can do select actor selection, and we can say user exist actor. Probably come up with some naming structure for this is weird because this feels very much like Godot, where I'm asking for resources, right? So that's interesting. We get there, we get there, we get there, we get there. It was not delivered, it was not delivered, it was not delivered. Interesting. So it's trying to process the messages, but they're all in a dead letter queue now. So that's going to be, so that's interesting. They're in Akka's dead letter queue there, so that was fun. Um, the in reality, what probably happened there as well is I actually acknowledged them. Um, so yeah, lag is 5, but I've processed most of them. So the consumer group there, Akka demo integration, right? The yeah. Offset 200. Yeah, it's actually got through most of the messages. So I'll have to reset that afterwards. So yeah, like 5. So I've still got 5 messages to process. The problem is though that the exists actor has a data store dependency, and when I ask for that exists actor here, it doesn't do dependency injection, even though we configured it here using dependency resolver. We don't get dependency injection, so we don't get because we've got a singleton of data store. We know it exists. What I probably should do is make the exists a child of processor as well, but again, understanding the hierarchies and stuff is for tomorrow me. I don't need to worry too much about that if I can get this process flowing. But it's interesting that we immediately saw the concurrency problem that I expected. And again, that is a major issue for this because I'd actually processed all of the same messages for the same object in parallel. Now, is that a reality? Yes. If the system is flowing as intended, it's very unlikely that you and I are changing the same object and that you and I are changing the same object at the same second to the point where that's going to error. But if the system is down for any length of time, if the system is unavailable, like we take down the Akka component, we need to do some updates on changes and publish different events, right? Then we bring the system down. Those messages back up. Again, one of the benefits of that is these messages back up. We don't break the system by doing this, right? If we take down changes, all we do is prevent notifications from happening for a while. We don't actually do anything to the system can continue working, right? So we can bring down components of the system for maintenance quite easily. But when we bring it back up, it could process hundreds or thousands of events that you can't guarantee. So how can I do this? Well, I could ask the first point, but that would completely defeat the point of using Akka, and I might as well use Kafka at that point because again, what Kafka does is Kafka guarantees that a message of the same ID lands in the same topic in the same partition every time, which means that you are guaranteed that the kind of FIFO for that message or for that entity ID. But again, to get even that resemblance of how goes it? Doesn't Akka process like a queue? Akka processes. The problem is that Akka pulls out a message and then runs that off and then processes the next message, right? It doesn't wait. So in this case, what's happening is I have 20 messages in Kafka. I acknowledge it and hand it off to be processed. It goes back and tells Kafka, yep, I got it. Let's move on to the next one. So I'm getting the throughput of Kafka. But I'm processing. I mean, I'm not actually hitting that problem yet, but I will see it. The same planning item But if one of those processes takes a little while, for whatever reason, the other ones will overtake it. So if I get 3 events come in for the same entity, um, when you see that with Kafka, if I was pausing, um, the Kafka extensions library that I've got calls receive on the event receiver, right? So you hook up the event receiver. This dispatches that event to the correct receiver, right? So this event receiver here says, okay, you consume this event, and here's your receiver, and that's what binds um, this here, right? We got the event, we got the receiver, so we can figure it all. The moment I call receive, I get my actor. In this case, I got lucky because I just removed the dependency out of this. Otherwise, it would have failed here. I then tell the actor, here's the event. That now is released. So this doesn't stop here. This carries on and hits here. When that happens, this commits, and then Kafka goes and gets the next message and processes that next message, and passes that off, and the same thing. And Akka just accepts it and sends the messages in. So Kafka's not waiting. Kafka's going to send me the next message, and that's what I want to happen ultimately. I want it to give me the throughput, right? Which is, from what I can tell so far, a pretty difficult case to find in their docs now. So here I am using the pause. I'm using request response. I'm asking it of, give me this response back, by the way, and do you exist? Oh, sorry, pardon me. I think it's getting into that time. But the problem is this is failing right now, so I can't even demonstrate this because this actor selection, the exists actor has a dependency, and I need that dependency in there. My worry is that the actual solution here is service provider is there, and var data store equals service provider to get required service of data store. I really hope this isn't the case, because that's a messy way of doing. Like, just give me real dependency injection if that's the case. But I think I can probably overcome that challenge, right? If I can figure out this workflow enough, once I can see it and visualize it, I can actually figure out that problem and say, okay, well, I need to overcome that challenge. I need to um, deal with the fact that I'm receiving the same thing again. Maybe that's how I do it. I check, am I actually processing this thing already? If I am, is my event newer or older? Kick it out, right? I feel like you should be able to configure an actor with a concurrency key so Akka could work. Yeah, that's probably, I mean, something similar, right? We've got to figure out, do we kick this message out? Oh, it does work. I can inject a service provider, but I can, hold on. It's telling me that it can't find data store. Well, that'll do it. That'll do it. Dear. Just use the collection expression. I put a private constructor on it. Yeah, that's not going to work very well, is it? So let's go back to the previous version of this and see if I now get data store injected. It might actually work this time. But you are right, Mr. Anon. I think something along here should be able to tell me um, concurrency key. Now, again, I'm going to receive what I'm going to rely on here is the fact that I can, for any given entity, I should receive the same ordering from Kafka, right? I'm relying upon that part. There we go. He got there this time. So exists null, right? So now we should get back here and we should have in the console, in the output. That should be console, right? Yeah, it doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Doesn't. There we go. We got a different one. Okay, I think that's all our messages now. We've exhausted the queue. So what I want to do is if it exists, I essentially want to say um bar um update actor. Then I want to call update actor dot tell. What do we want to send here? By the way, the message again. It's so nice having the next week off. I'm planning on a few weekday streams. I have so much planned to work on. Finally getting audio in the engine. I really want to get 3D audio in by the end of my vacation. Nice. Nice. Well, I'm working for the first 3 days of next week, so I hope to get I get to see that. And then I have the following week off. So I booked so I have a longer period of time off because of the Thursday and Friday off next week. So I have the 8th through the yeah. Um Also, I need to figure out if people do want to do the Q&A thing. Um, Actually, that's I don't know. I'll do this. Update actor that tell else bar um, create actor. There you go. Create actor that tell. This is going to make a mess. Create actor. And again, I think this is starting to explain a little bit more about what I want to do, right? So if I can name these properly, what I'm trying to do here is represent the flow as best I can, right? I'm trying to make these kind of compose the actual flow of the system rather than having I could have a handler in Kafka where I just say, okay, well now do A, B, C, D, etc. I would like to listen in. I'm not good at asking questions. Yeah, I mean, I want to figure out whether it's I don't know, maybe next Friday would actually be a good day because then uh one line streams at lunchtime. I can join his community stream. But because following week, the problem with that is the Q&A thing is if people are working or different time zones, it becomes a little bit difficult. But I want to try and offer it to as many people as possible. And I might try and make a more routine thing of it. Just general get together and talk about architecture stuff, design patterns, all those sorts of fun things. Create actor, update actor. Okay, so that's an exists actor. Update actor. I've got to worry about when I'm going to put this speciality in here because this is a typed actor, right? On receive. Yeah, Friday sounds like a good middle ground with it being on a holiday week. Might be hit and miss for US, but it might work for other time zones. Yeah, yeah, I'll probably drop it in the Discord uh, tomorrow. See if anyone has any interest. I could always do a couple of sessions, but it's figuring out what the worth is of that. Uh, Weekends are a difficult one as well. Different people tune in. Different people come along in the weekend than in the weekdays. Go ahead. Yeah. Because again, I think a more interactive exploration of what I've done, why I've done things, etc., is good to offer, but also then can get into discussion about why you might do something different and how you've done it in the past and why it works for you and explore those things because again, I'm doing this. It's not complete. I mean, you know probably more than most. This isn't from complete lack of experience. I'm being quite um uh adventurous in my use of technology, but it's not exactly born from no experience of doing this sort of stuff. Um, but again, the patterns I follow, the things I do, aren't the same things as you might do or anybody else might do. So it might be interesting to kind of offer that chance to sit down and talk about that in real time with the code base in front. Okay, so what I want to test here is so this again is a planning item integration event, right? This is what's bugging me so far. The structuring is going to become difficult. So let's put that in there. So in the create actor, it's an untyped actor. If it's not that, then return. Um, so what we're going to do is we're going to inject the data store in here. We're going to do data store dot add new planning item. This is going to be identifier equals planning item. Identifier title equals. It's going to be so messy. Hey, Deflux, how are you doing? Yeah, stating that brings a few good decisions to mind since you're focused on a product up front. I pivoted in mind to a product. Yeah, the chance of just going through those sorts of things would be good. So, how's it going? It's going well. Going well. We're tinkering with Akka a little bit. Um, we'll see how some of these things work. Oh, review date equals due date tenant. Why is that tenant ID? That shouldn't be tenant ID. um, Identity. I don't need to worry about that right this second. That's something I am going to have to worry about later, though, whether I care about that or not in this case, this context. I probably don't. I probably don't care about relationships in this data store. This data store can probably be something like Mongo or a NoSQL DB. Um, let's just do that for now. This object doesn't really matter. It's not going to hurt anything, right? So again, we're gonna create the actor, um, and then ultimately what this would do, I think, would be to publish an event. Um, I found a bug in the Blazor formatter, and every time I run it, all my pre-tags shift one tab over. Ugh, that's less than ideal. Scrap Blazor. Blazor's bad. What are you up to this evening, Deflux? Anything interesting? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go reset the topics. I'm going to reset the consumer group. Academic state empty. Consumer groups. Partitions. Interesting. Delete offsets. So that should pick that up again. Yeah. Just writing an Android app. You know, as you do. So this should create it, which means that this should now update it, which is going to be console.writeline updating planning item message dot planning item integration event dot identifier. This is a bit silly, but no one can stop me. I'll build my own Blazor with C# and no HTML. Run an Android app that backs up a bunch of my databases to spare Android tablet on my desk. Do you know? An Android app that backs up a bunch of my databases to a spare Android tablet on my desk. Like databases on the Android device. Script punk. Okay. Let's see if that even flows. Oh no, it won't flow because I've not registered anything. Okay, landed on one line of Discord. We probably need to go and configure the SQL. Okay. This I don't like. This I could get away. I could be happily able to never do again. That's going to upset me. It's going to upset me a lot. That create actor. It's just there's something wrong about this. It just feels you're Showing code of doing is it's now episode of this Blazor with just C#. So now I'm creating employer A for employer B. Well, both employers give me 115 Azure cash every month with the Visual Studio Enterprise sub. So I want to have an app that backs up on my databases. So I'm going to have to switch the host of a ton of side projects I use that free money with. Yeah, I forgot you did that. You use that employer credit on your personal stuff. I see, for me, I would never go near that sort of stuff. I would never even get close to doing personal stuff anywhere near anything employer. Because like if I was doing this and I was doing this on any of my employer time or any of my employer resources, I would panic because because they would have a say on it. They would actually have the right to take it. I do know how to write all Blazor, just C#, but I bet it's not that. I forget you can do that. You can do a lot in C#, can't you? Okay, so that's with those actors registered, we should be able to now See some of the messages. Probably a big crash, but we'll see. Concurrency warnings abound. Consumer groups. Yeah, I don't care in terms of. I think I use for my players to GitHub Copilot, but that is because GitHub Enterprise takes ownership of GitHub Copilot when you fall under one. I turn on. Gotcha. I have a completely separate account for GitHub for my work. Uh, coordinator, topics, consumer groups, academic integration, update offsets, 0. Must be larger than or equal to 182. I can be 182 then. Oh, yeah, it can be 182 then. Like 23. Okay, so we should have this should catch up eventually. So like sync my reps for my own account, but VS is logged in my employer's thing. Yeah, I learned a long time ago to never go near anything in play related on any of my personal equipment. I don't work on anything from home on personal equipment if they can't provide it. I don't get it. But I was sitting outside smoking a very nice cigar in the somewhat humid but nice and warm backyard. Nice. Let's restart that. Make sure that's not gonna. It might just have blipped because I reset there. If you kick Kafka's legs out from underneath the consumer, it can get a little bit tricky at times. But yeah, okay. There is no active actor context. This is most likely due to the use of async operations from within this actor. Oh, bite me. It's using the reason. Uh, for me, I do not have a ton of money. So using the resources society lots of me in the most efficient way possible is my jam. I mean, okay, so this is now tripped me up, right? Because this is now said, okay, well, you can ask this, but now this context has gone away, so you don't have this. So do I do actor system here? And now this is that. Rather that is that. I don't think that's the case, but we'll see. Oh, there we go. Updating a planning item, but you didn't exist. But I didn't log that I was creating either, so that's probably better. Let's go back there again. Let's reset that offset. Um, consumer groups. Let's go here. Update offsets for this. Back to 183. Update. Commit cannot be completed since the group has already rebalanced and assigned the partitions to another member. This means that the time between subsequent calls to port. Go away. It's just Kafka reorganizing his stuff. Uh, partitions, offsets. replicas, consumer groups. Update offsets. There you go. You just got to give it a time for it to settle down a bit. So now we've got lag 22. So we've got 22 messages to process. So, and that's one of the beauties of tinkering with Kafka, that you can just keep replaying the events pretty simply. Because when this starts up, it's always going to start up from the first one. But I'm still not seeing creating. Why am I not seeing creating? Store to add exists, right? Update at processor at oh, yeah, if it exists. I get the whole employee-employee relationship, but I'm not about to spend $150 a month on principal just on the off chance that my employer goes bankrupt or something. Like, the worst they can do is fire me. I mean, to me, I see that as, like, if I was to try and deploy parts of this, right, and figure this out, the money I spend there is money that I'm trying to invest in myself. Can I afford it? No, I can't afford to do that. I can't afford the risk of doing that. But I wouldn't use any resources of an employer personally. I get why you do it. You've uh you've got those resources. They're not stingy with them. Yeah. Yeah, they can claim ownership. That's the big risk for me. Um, so if I was to do that, if I got any resources given to me and I got them to play with, the risk of my employer taking this off me would be no, not gonna happen. Why is that saying it's they can say that as your if you use resources of a company to pay for it, they do own it. Your contract probably says it explicitly. You're lucky if it doesn't. Every one of my contracts has basically said if I work on stuff on company time and on company equipment and/or on company equipment, it belongs to. But they provide the credit, right? The credit comes from your employer. That's yeah, yeah. Uh, it's semantics. It's more to me. I wouldn't go anywhere near it with a big 10-foot pole. I wouldn't go near it. But that's because But I've also I've long since uh, accepted that I'm not going to get any sort of benefits in that respect from any employer I've worked for. If I got given the training and the time on those resources, I'd use them for work purposes, but I'd be more comfortable paying for it myself as well. Yeah, it's not on company equipment that time. Yeah, but it's on their accounts, or it's on accounts that you use. So you use the $150 as your credit under your account, not theirs, not the account you log into work for. Yeah, separate subscription, like completely separate nature. I mean, great. I mean, it's great that you've been able to do that. Pain in the backside that you're gonna have to move it from the subscriptions, but so this works. So I can inject the active system, so I don't need the context. So the context is lost when you use an async. So that's going to be a challenge. But the problem is I'm calling update all the time. Did I wire this up wrong? No. Create actors, create actor, update actors, update actor. How does data store? How can it possibly get in there? I never add it. Oh, hold on. Hold on, let's see. Oh, you donkey. That's that again. Let's um let's remember how language works. Working for like 30 months, so our savings of 4,500. Yeah, I mean that's stunning. But yeah, again, I've got to figure out how to. I've been looking at these jobs and these .NET jobs and stuff, and there's so many that are just you need 3 years of card stuff. I've definitely there we go. Okay, so we're creating the planning item, creating the planning item, creating the planning item, updating, creating. Oh, how did you hit creating twice there? Updating, creating. Wow. I didn't I didn't hit creating for the same item more than once. It actually tracked them enough to even though they basically streamed out at the same time. 3 years of what stuff? Cloud? Oh dude, it's so easy. You probably know more than you think. Uh, I probably do, and I mean it's scary because a lot of the jobs are like you need to know more about like the deployment sides of the cloud stuff. If I'm going for a senior engineer or staff engineer, I should not be worrying about deployment. That is not the sort of place you want to go, right? Um, I shouldn't have to be the one dealing with the CI/CD. I should understand it, but I shouldn't have to be the one dealing with it. So I shouldn't have those expertise. Um, okay, yes, they're nice to have, but I shouldn't know how. I shouldn't. It shouldn't be a requirement of my job that I know how to do them exactly. Not 12:30. It's I'm gonna have to go soon because I gotta walk dogs. I'm gonna get in trouble soon. Um, I don't know. I could talk about this forever. Huh. That did exactly what I expected it to do. I just don't know. You know what I need to know now? Yeah. Uh, want to do consumer groups, that one. Update offsets, 183, that planning items, update. No, I don't smoke at all. I've never smoked. Grew up in a smoking household. It's not something and that was including cigars and cigarettes as well. So and pipes. It's never really appealed. I know what you mean. I have a friend who does. Yeah, he has a an indulgence once in a while. It just doesn't appeal to me. So what we're going to check now is we will have to have a conversation on the whole requirements thing. By the way, I would like to talk about it. I just don't. I can't do it now because I do really have to consider getting off shortly because I'm going to get in trouble. The dogs are going to want to go walk and it's 12:30. Let's go here. Let's go to the update actor. Update and planning item. But yeah, I know what you mean by proper cigars. Um, it's just never appealed. The smell uh just irks me. So and again, smoking has never bothered me. Never been something I wanted to do. Okay. Just gonna pretend that nothing exists now, or what? Come on. Sometimes you get this where Kafka starts up and it's like not gonna do anything. And then all of a sudden it'll kick into play. So if these updates come out in the right order, I'll have a little bit more confidence in the processing here because that means that it's actually dealing with the messages as it needs to. My concern is if one of them takes a little bit longer, what happens to the rest? Because again, I can't receive the update for one um, and then receive the update for the other. I have to be able to trust it. There we go. Okay. So we had creating. So we got a bunch of creates. Oh, there we go. There's the worst case scenario. The exist check didn't come back. There it is. So it can collide. I mean, the good news is in general, it dealt with the last updates pretty effectively. The last updates are pretty much in sequence. Except those, that one. Oh no, that's correct. Yeah, 10, 11 on the 19th, 10, 10. Okay, so that's the same. 26, 636. Okay. So overall, they're not doing too bad. They do come out in the right sequence. But we can hit this situation where we are creating for the exact same GUID. So what happened there is the messages came through Kafka. Um, both of them got processed by Akka almost at the exact same time. Actually, it happened again up there 3 times for that one. For this first one here. Akka got hit by the message from Kafka before it had even finished the exist check. The second message had come in, hit the exist check. It had offloaded them that quick. So all three of them hit the exist check at the same time um, before the create had happened, right? So they all got in here, they asked, they came back, nope, and hit here. So before this is actually finished, this piece, each one of them had gone through the other handler. So I need, like you said, Mr. Anhorn, before, I need some sort of correlating ID. Echo.net. In Kafka, yeah. So again, an event in Kafka with the same ID, they're all going to go in the same partition. Confluent let us know that one. So you are guaranteed the ordering of the events coming out of Kafka. The problem is the parallelization of Akka there meant that it processed three events almost in parallel to the point where each one reliable message delivery. It's not reliable. I mean, the message delivery is reliable enough. That's not the problem. Um, do I want correlation? State. I don't want finite state. Routers can be deployed in multiple ways using curly configuration. Routers is a special type of actor whose job is to route messages to other actors called routees. Different routers use different strategies to route messages efficiently. Routers can be used to inside or outside of an actor, and you can manage the routees yourself or use a self-contained router actor. I mean, I mean, right now, that's kind of what I'm doing. I don't call it routing necessarily. Dispatchers are responsible for scheduling all code that run inside the access system. Dispatchers are one of the most important parts of Arca.net, as they control the throughput and timeshare for each of the actors, giving each one a fair share of resources. By default, all actors share a single global dispatcher. When messages arrive in the actor's mailbox, it's dispatched. So, hold on, mailboxes. In Arca.net, mailboxes hold messages that designed for an actor, destined for an actor. When you send a message to an actor, the message doesn't go directly to the actor, but goes to the actor's mailbox until the actor has time to process it. A mailbox can be described as a queue of messages. Messages are usually then delivered from the mailbox to the actor one at a time in the order they were received, but they are implementations like the priority mailbox. They can change the order of delivery. Normally, every actor has its own mailbox, but this is not a requirement. So, hold on. If it does have a mailbox, how am I processing three in parallel like that then? If I'm getting the same actor. Scheduling message with that timer, persistence, clustering. Utilities, event bus stuff. Ugh. Configuration. Right. Okay. Well, I'm just getting more tired, and this is going to get harder to read. So, challenges, challenges abound, but I think it's worth persevering here. At the very least, what I want to do is I want to get a working prototype up that demonstrates the concepts that I'm trying to go for. Motsy makes. You know more streamers at this time of night than I definitely do. These days, I do not. Retro RPG depth, nice. Um, sorry, joined right then. All good. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate you hanging out. Um, I might be back with this tomorrow again because I want to kind of pick up this process. I want to try and get into this process before next week because obviously I do some. I'm going to keep on the game dev flow because I think it's kind of nice to do the palette cleanse. Um, but going into late next week, I want to do a Q&A day, potentially Friday, because I've got obviously we've got the day off on Friday. So I'm going to open up the Discord and do a Q&A. Use this, answer some questions, maybe talk about other people's challenges and problems. So definitely check out the Discord there. I'd like to know any feedback or ideas. But the focus tomorrow for me on this path will be, can I create a correlation message ID? And can I make sure that a set of actors cannot process a message for the same identifier while they're processing another one? Is that possible? So they can process other messages, but they can't process this one. How do actors spawn? Because if I can do that, then I can guarantee the order I'm handling events in, and I can guarantee that I've got changes. My alternative is to kind of build up a store of the events, and then when it goes quiet, fire off a timer. Right? I don't like that idea. That's a messy idea that involves, you know, basically creating another message queue, and that's horrible. So I think it's worth sticking with. I think this will definitely do what I wanted to do. I just got to figure out that challenge, and then we'll have the speed of processing to calculate these changes. Because again, the goal is to make it so that the changes come through, get processed, and then we can ultimately end on notifications. And this is the second part, the most important part of demonstrating the system. So okay, let's call it here. I'll send whoever's left over to Motsy Makes. I'm going to head off pretty quickly, but thank you for joining me. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your evening, and hope to see you again soon. No worries. Thank you. Take care, all. Bye.